Okay, so this is like the third or fourth time I've tried to make this video. I'm gonna bottom line this video because I tried to do a bigger thing on the reasoning that I'm going to give. Basically, the TLDR of this is that we're going to be focusing on indie games and older titles on this channel from this point forward. I'll still be covering Star Trek Online for how long as it lasts. That's its own video, because there's a lot to go over there. But with the incoming tariffs, what is likely to be a skyrocketing cost for PC components, for especially high-performance PC components, with the rise of indie gaming, like indie games like Schedule One, for example, and Balatro, and dozens of others you could name, just overtaking the AAA industry in terms of sales. That's just where gaming is. That's just where it is now. That's where the passion is. That's where it's happening. So that's where we're going to be focusing. Part of that is because when I look at the list of games that I'm excited for, every year there's more and more independent games and less AAA titles. I think the last big AAA title I was actually excited for was Armored Core 6. And hot take, I'm actually a bit disappointed with it. There's a reason I haven't touched it for a while, and that is largely because Armored Core 6 is not a game that respects your time like the older games were. Armored Core 6 does not... not only does it want you to play the game the way the developers wanted you to play the game, which, as an old school Armored Core player to me, is just the complete antithesis of what the series is about. But it also wants you to do it 3 times over to get the actual ending of the game. I thought this was dumb with Armored Core Last Raven, and it is dumb now. I've always hated the fact that you had to play that game 6 times to get the ending, right? Like like 6 times to fight the actual final boss and get the actual proper ending to that fucking game. And then this game is pulling the same shit. Now, granted, 3 times is certainly less than 6, but the overall number of missions you have to complete in order to get there is far, far greater. I don't like it. It feels like it's just, let's say, spiritually taxing, right? Especially when I'm playing it, having played all the older games. I'm playing this game in the knowledge that by the point where I'm at, I would already have a staple AC that I could just take on the world with. Essentially, I would be good. You guys watched me play Armored Core 2 on this channel, like in the replay that I did last year. Was it last year? I think it was last year. Where I just went through the arena first before I didn't even have to go to any mission. I just did the arena first, and by the time I was done with the arena, I had a custom staple AC. I had a tank tread AC, and I'm not a tank tread player. Tank treads and me don't get along. I don't usually use tanks, but I was able to take that AC all the way to the finish line with barely any changes to it over the course of the game. I had an AC I could enjoy the whole game with after the arena. Armored Core 3. You guys watched me play Armored Core 3. Before I even went on a mission, I started doing arena stuff, and I already had a decent, not a great, because you have to progress through the missions to unlock more arena opponents, but I had a decent AC that was significantly better than what you start with. Because I had all those parts available, because I had the option of going to the arena, because I had a choice in how I engaged with this game, which is what you do not have for Armored Core 6. They have taken all the choice away from you. You were given fake choices when you play this game. You play it their way, and their way is backwards, because the they'll tell you to do, they'll expect you to do something in a mission. Like, let's talk about the big crawler thing, which is a cool boss. But they'll expect you to do something, and then after you've done the task, they'll give you the lesson how to do the task in a tutorial. Well, where the fuck was that? Why didn't you give me that at the beginning? I feel like the whole thought behind how the progression and how the game is designed is backwards with Armored Core 6, which sucks because the actual gameplay is very good. Like, the ACs handle fantastic. They feel great. They feel powerful without feeling... They're super fast and super powerful without being overly chunky or fragile like they were in Armored Core 4. Hated Armored Core 4. Like, if I wanted to play through somebody's Gundam fanfiction, I'd play another Centuries episode. That's not what I expected from Armored Core. Didn't like it. But modern games do not respect your time, because they are not meant to be enjoyed. They are meant to be run. Like, they're not there to entertain you, they are there to retain you. And shove as many microtransactions as possible in front of your face, and take over your life. And I realize the irony of, like, talking about that when I'm talking about, like, that I'm still going to cover Star Trek Online. I actually don't put too much time... I try not to put too much time into Star Trek Online, particularly because I'm waiting to see what the fate of this game is going to be. And that fate is going to be decided this year, one way or another. There are several things going on right now, and like I said, that's going to be its own video. But Star Trek Online's fate is very much up in the air right now, and it's got everything from just the age of the engine to corporate politics to actual politics with regards to the EU's sudden attention towards microtransactions, all of which might derail it if things go, like, if DECA can't pivot, which, considering this studio just got Star Trek Online, I don't know if they can. And even if they could, everyone from Cryptic who could have worked on it is fired. There's like 2 people left. There's Bordicus and Thomas that I know of. Bordicus, listen, I have nothing against the man, but he wouldn't have been my first draft pick to stay on. He's now the lead system designer. It's a great, it's a good cushy job, you know, if you're just sort of like keeping the lights on for Star Trek Online. I know Thomas is still, and Thomas is like he's the co-system designer actually. I think he's still working with the art department, but that's not his overall gig at this point. But I'm still going to cover that. But I'm mainly going to be focusing on indie and older games because, due to a lot of different factors, the tariffs that are about to take effect, the separation of the US and Chinese markets, the incoming skyrocketing of components and electronics in general in price, everybody's going to be shortchanged. Everybody's going to be basically looking for something they can play on a system that is not incredibly powerful. And people are already doing that partially because of how unoptimized game engines have become. Games, like, you see like YouTube video after YouTube video about this. You see comparison picture memes about this. Games looked better. Like, games are more photorealistic now, sure. They can push photorealism more powerfully, but they looked better 10, 15 years ago. And they were better optimized than what they have now. So, like, I hear endless amounts of problems with Unreal Engine 5, and that's not even going into the issue, that's not even touching the issues people are having with making attractive-looking humans in Unreal Engine 5. So, Now you have like Nintendo. It's going to be costing you like $500 for a console, and what it's likely to be $90 to $100 for Mario, Zelda, etc. Metroid. I don't even want to know how much Metroid's going to cost. What I do know is that apparently pre-order sales for Switch Ones are skyrocketing, which is a bad sign. If people look at the Switch 2, they look at the Switch 1, they go, I don't think so. I'm just going to play this and all the older games. I do not expect Nintendo to allow that situation to persist. Nintendo has a bad reputation for discontinuing and cutting off backwards compatibility to older surfaces and making you rebuy everything, as they are doing with GameCube games on the Switch 2. So there's a lot of different factors here going into this, and one of the biggest reasons why is because this channel originally started as a means of consumer advocacy. It was the 2008 recession, and I wanted to spotlight classic games or seminal games that perhaps hadn't been brought to people's attention. Stuff like Colony Wars, stuff like Parasite Eve, stuff like Mega Man Legends. And I wanted to show off these older games that were more easily obtainable than all the newer stuff. They cost less. Now the retro market is booming because new generations are discovering those old games. And the big studios know this, which is why you're seeing all these HD remasters. You're seeing, let's pull a few out of my head. Fear Effect. You're seeing Soul Reaver. You're seeing Tomb Raider. There will be more. You're seeing all this because they know that somebody at least knows that the current market is unsustainable. Like the AAA industry is headed for disaster. What we're seeing is the end of new gaming. Just like Hollywood crashed and burned in like the 70s, and it's crashing and burning again right now. We're seeing the end of we're seeing the end of new Hollywood. We're also seeing the end of new gaming. But like Hollywood, like new Hollywood, as it crashes and burns, new gaming, and I call it new gaming because there was an existing games industry before with the Atari, ColecoVision, etc. That industry crashed and burned because it was choked to death by corporate slop. E.T., the extraterrestrial, the Atari game is the infamous example. That's happening again now. That is what is happening now. We're witnessing the next video game crash. But unlike before, where Nintendo had to reinvent the wheel with the Famicom to reignite the gaming industry and rebirth it, so to speak, in a better, more innovative form, the successor to the modern games industry, the current games industry, already exists with indie games who are overtaking AAA titles to an insane degree. Like Schedule 1 is in the news right now for basically obliterating AAA sales. It's not photorealistic at all. It doesn't have cutting-edge graphics. It's just a good fucking game. It's not clogged with all of the millions of features that have become ubiquitous in AAA games. They all look the fucking same now. They all look the fucking same. That's not the case with Schedule 1. It's different. It's passionate. It's genuine. It's authentic. It's authentic. Robert Mayer Burnett is, if you've never watched Robservations, I highly recommend it. Whether you agree with him or not, he's got a lot of interesting insights to give. And one of the things that he said that is, I couldn't agree with more, and it is so incredibly true, is that the currency of the 21st century is authenticity. The currency of our modern age is authenticity. It's why YouTube overtook Hollywood. Real people real opinions. It's why YouTube overtook Hollywood. It's why YouTube has overtaken the mainstream media. Real people, real opinions, real lives. Now, that's debatable. You could, there's room to debate that because of how heavily edited a lot of things are. But that, so simply, there it is. Like, authenticity. That's why these indie games, authenticity and passion are why these indie games are exploding. Their authenticity, they have passion, they're small teams that are not burdened by this overbearing bureaucracy that are there to tell them what they can and cannot do. You can't make a game anymore in the mainstream game industry without a bajillion people signing off on it. And then that bajillion people all have to stick their hand in the pot. They all have to jump into the kitchen with you and tell you, no, you're cooking it the wrong way, add this. No, you're cooking it the wrong way, don't add that. And as a result, what you get is this, like, maybe the game is playable, but it's not engaging, it's not genuine. It's not a labor of love or passion anymore, it's just slop. It's just gray sludge, full of similar features to everything else. And that's what the indie industry, what is going to become the games industry soon, has avoided. You will see big. I genuinely believe like all the big studios are heading for collapse, because especially in the wake of the tariffs, in the wake of the coming problems acquiring electronics that we're all going to have, in the wake of greater attention to them, in the wake of being dragged into the spotlight, like Ubisoft has, for example. In the wake of the tariffs, this is the big thing. This is one of the big things. In the wake of the tariffs in China, specifically designed to cut off anyone from doing business with China, this is a big deal because a lot of these companies, EA, especially Ubisoft, which is in the news right now, but EA, Ubisoft, Microsoft, a lot of these companies all have major investment by Tencent. They get major capital from Tencent. That's going to be a big deal. Like, it's not just game developers, it's parts manufacturers as well. Gaming memorabilia is all marketed through Tencent. You're about to see a massive collapse in how the games industry has been doing things. In my opinion, a deserved collapse. And I'm not speaking ill of the people working within the industry. I don't want people to lose their jobs, but listen, the industry is full of really passionate, talented people who are gonna make it out okay. You know why? Because they're not gonna have that overbearing corporate structure there anymore to tell them what they can and cannot do. And there are phenomenal, talented people in the games industry who, once they're free of that chain, they're going to find each other. They're going to get together. They're going to work on the games they dreamed of making. And we're going to see a gaming renaissance again. That's what I hope. That's my firm hope. That's the light at the end of this tunnel. So, seeing as the future very much resembles the past at this point, with the booming retro game market, and all of these developers who are... The real reason they're doing this is they're trying to remonetize the past, right? Because of... Let's just put the word... Let's just say it. Let's call out the elephant in the room. Emulation has existed forever. People have archives of all their favorite games, many people, and they are trying to remonetize those classic games, which is why you've suddenly seen in the past couple of years these major takedowns of emulation sites, because they're running out of there's next to no overhead comparatively. It still costs money, but nowhere near as much money as a modern game. But there's very little overhead when it comes down to a remaster, especially if In the case of the Switch, you are just running it on an emulator. I remember, I think it was the PlayStation 3 where like people went into the PlayStation 3. This is way back in the day, and they found out that it was just running. It was just running like EPSS, like EPSE or PSXE or something like that. Was the name? God, I can't even remember what the name of that emulator was. But it was just running a very commonly used emulator for PlayStation games, essentially. It was like they just taken the code, like the bare bones of the code, and wrote around it. That I'm gonna make myself angry if I keep talking about that. That is the state of things. I'm still going to continue to do Star Trek Online. I'm still going to cover some modern games. Star Trek Resurgence is coming. People have been nagging me forever to do Baldur's Gate 3. I've had it since Alpha. I've run it approximately once just to see how the hardware handled it. There's a lot more I wanted to go over, but every time I tried to make that video, something new happens that is related to what I wanted to talk about. And so I've decided to break it into pieces, pretty much, like and focus on like each individual piece. And I've covered some of what I was talking about in that bigger video that I wanted to do here, but I'm going to reserve those other pieces for their own thing, pretty much. Oh God. Look, this year is gonna be weird, okay? It's gonna be weird. It's gonna be weird and rough for everyone, but let's try and resolve to have the best year that we can, okay? Like, everybody's gonna be dealt. We're all gonna be dealt a raw hand at some point. So let's try and make the best of things. Let's make some lemonade from these lemons, huh? Let's try and have a little fun. I'll see you guys later.